Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Q&A for the wonderful 37 Final Promise. I'm Debbie Elias, a film critic here in town for Culver City Observer, Santa Monica Observer, and 147 other publications in the U.S. and abroad. Take your pick. So I'm very thrilled and pleased to introduce some of our cast tonight. Let's start with the wonderful Michael Sutton, who plays Elliot. The lovely Jemma, who gives an outstanding performance, Scottie Thompson. And of course, our director, co-writer, and star, Randall Batinkoff. You're welcome, darling. Good to see you. Again, we're getting to be really good at this. We've been doing this all week. So I'll get things started, and then we're going to open it up to you shortly. So first of all, again, congratulations for the umpteenth time on this wonderful project. You know, I think in light of today's events and the passing of Robin Williams, I think screening the film tonight takes on a new poignancy. And Robin has been a good friend to SAG Foundation, and to be here with a film that one of the core elements is a man who is being beaten down by life, who has had a traumatic incident, and who wants to and is contemplating suicide. So I think that puts this whole film in a new perspective for us this evening. And Randall, I want to open that up to you and talk about how this film came to be, because the story in and of itself is a very important one.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's a rough night for everybody in Hollywood and around the world. Suicide, depression, mental illness, people wanting to sort of end their lives because of some incredible monumental event that has sort of plagued them is obviously very rampant all over the world. And I actually met a gentleman about 12 years ago who had that same exact problem. He was a rock and roll guy. Actually, it's not quite that. He actually had made a very succinct decision to die. And he would say he wasn't depressed. I asked him if he was depressed, and he would say, no, I'm not depressed. But he suffered from a very, it was the death of his brother that had tormented him and led him to the decision to end his life. And basically, that was the impetus of the film. I tried to talk him out of his suicide. And he just said there was nothing I could do to change his mind. He was going to do it. It's very matter of fact. And then I lost touch with him, and about 2 years later, I ran into him at Gold's Gym. And he was alive and well. And he had changed his mind, obviously. And I asked him why, and he said that he chickened out because he was still happy and healthy, and he didn't want to devastate his mother. And then I asked him about his girlfriend, who I had met on several occasions, and he told me that she had died. And I asked him how, and he told me that she killed herself. So I didn't know at the time that she, in fact, I didn't know until then. I discovered that she had MS and a very serious case of it. And I learned all the details and realized that it was a story that needed to be told. So that's how it all started, yeah.
So once the story was actually told, how did it come to you for turning it into a film?
Well, the gentleman whose story this is and I started writing a screenplay. We spent a long time. We talked about the film. He wrote the book. And we worked on a script for a few years, actually, and could never quite get it in the right direction. It just wasn't quite working, and so I brought on another writer who did fantastic things with the script and helped gear it into a different direction. It made it more lyrical and palatable, because it's such a tough story that we just wanted to make sure we told it in a way that audiences could relate to it. It's still tough. I mean, it's just a tough story. As Oscar-winning director John Avildsen told me the other night, he saw the movie. He said, "This is not a movie I would tell." He said, "It's not a story I would pick, but if I were to tell the story, this is the way I would want to tell it." So.
And one of the interesting things is that you stepped in to direct it. First time featured director here, folks. What you just saw belies the majority of what a lot of people do their first time out. So many kudos to you, Randall, for a job well done. And now, a testament to you as a person is also the cast that came on board for you, two of whom are here tonight, some who are not, notably Bruce Davison, our pot-smoking psychic. Who would ever have thought that? What led the two of you, especially you, Michael, because you'd stepped away from performing for a number of years. For those that may not recall, Michael's big claim to fame was for years on General Hospital, playing the character of Stone, who was one of the first television characters to be afflicted with HIV and AIDS. And that was a seminal mark in television history and acting. So Michael comes back to before the camera for this man here, and then the lovely Scottie also joins in. So can you two talk about what is it that gave you the confidence or led you to be part of this project?
The nod was, I guess, that I'll start. Well, first of all, Randall is just, I think, just this talent that I think Hollywood's going to rediscover. So I was very supportive and anxious to work with him. He's one of my best friends. He, is, I think, going to find himself acting a lot more than he is going to be directing, but I felt that this was something that he had to do and a story that he needed to tell, and I think it's made him a better actor, and I think he's a very talented director. So I think he told a story that wasn't easy. Debbie had brought up, I had the privilege of playing a daytime character that had a 10-month storyline arc that ultimately died of the HIV/AIDS virus. And so that was a luxury to have that medium. I was, 5 days a week telling a story. And the reason why I think this is just, so touching is to tell this story in 2 hours or 90 minutes, whatever it is, and have the arc of an evolution of the characters that you really are compelled and care about go through that transformation in 2 hours is remarkable, because, A, you're talking about, the guilt, the depression, then you're talking about ALS, you're talking about suicide. The only way he could relate to, Scottie's character was that he had that background. So when the story finally, 60 minutes in, all comes together, and now you go, wow, I realize what's been unfolding for this whole time, and it grabs you. I think that's a testament to, the independent film in and of itself, the medium, and that you were able to tie it all together. And at that point, for the next 20 minutes, you're going, wow, this is pretty heavy. I didn't realize. I thought I was just seeing a rock and roll movie. And so I think you guys did an amazing job, first of all, and to play all those physical ailments and things into the character in that short amount of time was great. Scottie and Randall, I can't say enough. You did an amazing job.
Thanks, Michael.
If you can't tell, they really are friends. So, Scottie, what about for you? What led you into this project? And as an actor, you've got a lot of responsibility with the character of Jemma. So how do you prepare for that?
Well, I just fell in love with the script when I read it the first time and thought it was just such a beautiful story that I was so excited to be reading this script and be considered for this role and have the chance to potentially step into this character's shoes. And the first meeting I had with Randall was actually via Skype, and I couldn't see him. but he could see me. It was awesome. So anyway.
That was not planned, by the way. That was a mistake.
Somehow that didn't turn him off totally from wanting to have me involved in the project. And then I went for a meeting and met Randall in person and finally got to see him. And I could see and feel and taste the passion that he has for this project. And Guy, who the story's based on, happened to be at the meeting. So it was a really special occasion to just, it was palpable how much these people were invested in portraying the truth of this story. And then Randall had me come back and do a cold reading. And I was deathly nervous for that, as you guys know how that goes. And somehow he decided to take a chance on me, which was really an amazing opportunity, and I was thrilled. And
Offered you the spot.
yeah, and he offered it to me on the spot. So that's a rare occurrence and an exciting one. And and it was a pretty quick turnaround between when I got offered the role and when we were going to begin shooting. And so I kind of dove into it fully as quickly and fully as I could, and went to the ALS Association. They have groups all over the U.S., and I went to one of their meetings out in Pasadena, and the group was really welcoming to me, and it was an incredibly powerful experience to be able to sit there, and it's just a support group for people who are suffering from the disease, and I saw all the various ways, and it's such an unknown disease, and there's so little research that's been done on it. And right now, by the way, it's a movement going, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I don't know if any of you have seen that passing around social media, and there are people challenging each other to dump a bucket of cold ice on their heads or donate to the cause. And I say donate, whether or not you dump a bucket of ice on your head, because we need more money to go into research for it. But anyway, it was, there were one woman there who'd had it for 13 years and was still walking, which is just really unusual. And then there was someone else there who'd had it for a year and was already in a wheelchair. And so it was a really heavy thing to take on. And I was very aware of the fact that, you're walking a fine line, you all know as actors, of trying to portray the truth of the situation and also stepping into the truth of the story and bringing your own compassion into that. And everyone had such heart and compassion I was working with, and I just trusted Randall so much in the process and just kind of dove in and let go at a certain point.
Well, Randall, you were also walking a very fine line between Randall the director and Randall the actor. So who was harder to work with, Randall the director or Randall the actor?
Randall the actor is always harder to work with. He's a real pain in the ass.
Doesn't take direction well?
No. Oh, he does, especially when he's giving it to himself. He's all right. I was just so lucky to have amazing actors. I mean, Scottie was just sensational. She just was the character from the moment I saw her, really. And she continued to surprise me. She just kind of just was right there the entire time. Bruce, Davison is brilliant. The whole cast. Tricia Helfer, spectacular. Scott Wolf, Michael Sutton. Leon Robinson, I did my first film with him. I realized when I made the film, just because of the limited budget, we shot in 17 days, that you basically cast every friend that you have that you can put into the movie. So I realized there's no point really in auditioning for anything ever, because everybody just casts their friends. And, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of true. And it's because when you're making these movies, you just want to be around people, because especially if you're a first-time director, you're kind of, it's intense, it's daunting, and when you're playing the part, and then you're going to direct, and you're going to produce. I mean, it's a lot going on. You're rewriting the script. I mean, there's a lot going on, and thank God I had great actors, and that was really the key. So I was able to do both.
In other words, what he's telling all of you is make friends with the person next to you because you may have to have them come work for you for free.
Exactly. Debbie, that's exactly right.
So one of the great things that you've done is you have found that balance, but you also maintained a level of technical excellence in the film, in addition to the performance. How did you go about achieving that as an actor turned director?
Well, I had an excellent DP, Wes Cardino. He took beautiful pictures. He's a perfectionist. I had an incredible gaffer, Greg Hadwick, production designer, Jeremy White. You know, a great editor, Chris Hill. I had editorial advisors also. I had a great group of people. Kathleen Flynn, the music was incredible. I mean, it's all about assembling a team. When you make a movie, you just got to get the right people. I had a very skilled line producer also, Leila Djansi. So, I mean, we had people who knew what they were doing. There were problems on the set, absolutely. We went over budget and lost, I don't know, 6 days or so. At times we were shooting 8, 10 pages a day. That's not fun. I don't recommend that ever for anybody. You know, we were shooting scenes in about 20 minutes. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but you have. Okay, so you know what that's like. It's like, okay, guys, we're going to shoot this scene right now. We got to be done in 15 minutes, okay? And we haven't blocked it yet. We haven't lit it. And at times, there's no choice but to just get it done. And sometimes that brings out the best in you if you're up for the challenge. And we all were. Everybody was. Luckily, everybody really believed in the movie. You can get on those sets where you're like, geez, this is a really not such a good story. And you're like, I don't want to be here. When's my meal? No, I'm not up for another 10 minutes. No, this movie, people were, Tricia Helfer was doing her own makeup. Scottie was cooking us dinner. That's not true, but she would have.
Would have been horrible.
It wouldn't have been good.
But now, craft services is a very important part of every film
Oh,
set.
yeah.
So you did take care of that part?
Yeah, we did. We had good
Okay.
food. We had good food. Right?
Yeah.
Just checking. It was decent. Robert Altman had good food. When I did The Player, I got to say, the first day I showed up on the set of The Player, there was lobster and crab. I was like, this guy's cool. We didn't. We had like enchiladas and refried beans, but they were good.
You came down to Tito's Tacos for those, right? So now when you're under the gun in a situation like this on a low budget, no budget kind of film, as so many of you, I'm sure, know about or you will soon find out about. For actors, for you, for Michael, for Scottie, how does that impact your performance when all of a sudden your director says, okay, we got 20 minutes and we got to get this in the can?
Prepare. Yeah, I don't know. I tend to just dive go all the way in and you just have to go to sleep and know all your lines for the next day and know where you're, have some ideas in your head of the choices you're going to be making, but also be open to, I like to see what shows up, with Randall or whomever you're doing your scene with and be ready to just see where it goes. And obviously Randall's directing too and has wonderful ideas there. But for me, it's really important to, run my lines so I'm not so concerned about the words, but beyond running lines, like really know where I am in the journey and the arc and, making your timeline, your index cards and have it all out. So, I mean, that's my process, but just so I know, because you're shooting out of order usually. And so you just need to know, especially for me with the physical regression that I was working on, just mapping out where I was going to be at what point, what was going on physically was also something that I was considering and making sure I knew. And yeah, I've done those projects, like those quick things. Sometimes TV moves really fast, and I remember doing a made-for-TV thing with my friend Kathy and Jimmy, and every night before we'd go to bed, we'd meet up in our hotel rooms and run lines with each other, so we didn't have to worry about it the next day. And applying those kinds of lessons to this kind of thing, because when you really love the story as much as I love this story, and that it's a time thing, you just gotta be ready to dive in and go see where it goes.
And what about for you, Michael? How does that time crunch impact you? Because, with a history in daytime television where it's rapid.
So I was smiling and laughing. The 8 pages, I was laughing. We did,
8 pages, you do 8
60-some pages a day and 27 scenes on the dock. And sometimes you look at the board and I got 21 of the 26 scenes, and some are pre-tape, some are post-tape. And so, yeah, like you were saying, Scottie, you got to know your lines, you got to be prepared. But, it's set up where you're on a sound stage, it's lit, you're going from set to set, there's 7 cameras, there's a director in the booth cutting like a, NFL broadcast, cut to 1, cut to 3, cut to 5. It's a totally different medium. But as an actor, the challenge, unfortunately, isn't any easier. You have to know that many more pages of dialogue and have to be ready to deliver that many more scenes. So it's great training. And so, yes, there are, studio films where you do a page. And then, that's it. And then on independent films, you can do 7 or 8. But with changing sets and lighting and the work, that you wanted to capture, you had a very accelerated shooting schedule and no budget. So, you did amazing shooting 7, 8 pages a day, and you killed it.
So, Randall, stepping behind the camera for the first time with this feature, what would you say was some of the most challenging aspects for you tackling this job?
Just keeping the ship moving, really was it. Just trying to keep getting our days, making our days, and just keeping everybody just sort of relaxed and in the story, trying to just put out fires and and move and get and be relaxed enough to give have really good performances, and setting the stage for that freedom, because if you're tense and you're stressed out, you can't really perform. I feel like it just compromises it. So I wanted to just make sure that my actors were where they needed to be.
And happy.
And happy, yeah.
And you did an amazing job of that. There's a lot that went on, and the whole time Randall was just so calm and present, and just he was the captain, and it was beautiful.
So how collaborative was the whole ambient nature on the set? Was Randall open to your ideas or suggestions? Was he a taskmaster and say, no, this is what's on the page, this is what you're saying?
He was extremely open to ideas that, in my case, that I had and brought to the table. And there were some scenes that we sort of worked through together once I was cast, and we had some sessions, writing sessions, or not really fully writing, but just reworking some ideas. And there were, some that were pretty significant in relation to the story. And it was, he was just always very open to considering, and it was just a very open, honest, easy dialogue to have, and I totally trusted his instincts and his, it was a really special experience for me.
That's cool. It was a work in progress the whole time. It was never, it's set, this is perfect. It was really a template, and we all just sort of worked off of it and improved upon it. And so if anybody had input that would improve it, I was like, great, let's try that too, because I don't know. I think this is really good, but Bruce Davison, for instance, would have suggestions. And when Bruce Davison has suggestions, you just take them, and he's, as I said, you don't direct Bruce Davison, okay? You let him do whatever the hell he wants. And, and he was a genius, and Scottie's instincts were, You know, she had her instincts about the character, and I wasn't really going to argue with them because they made sense to me. I was like, well, you know what, that actually makes things I didn't even think about. So I was like, great, let's try that. And it, you know, I think it works. I think it all works. So it's a group effort. It's my job is just to you know, get it done as well as I can. But you know, you got a team, and you got to count on your team to just throw their own weight.
Well, how about if we throw some questions out to the audience? I think Jessie's got a mic that she'll come around with. But in the meantime, we'll just repeat the question so it can get on the audio. Right over here.
What is the process of getting your financing?
What is the process of getting financing?
Well, I made a few phone calls. That's how I did it. I made a couple phone calls. I said, I want to make a movie. I got a great script. I'm going to make it for. I tried to get Nick Cassavetes to direct it. Didn't happen. Could not get an answer from Nick Cassavetes. So then I thought, well, maybe, you know, I'm going to direct the movie. I've been looking to direct something. I was like, you know what? This really is something. I do love this story. I've been working on it for so long. I'm going to direct it. So then I was sure I'd do that. Then I tried to get Stephen Dorff to play the lead, and I couldn't get an answer from Stephen. Don't know why. I love Stephen. I really.
He still owes me a drink.
I
so
know. That's you know, what's going on with him. He's too busy.
I'll tell you.
So a friend of mine suggested that I play the lead role. He said, it's a great part. You should play the part. You can do it. I said, but I'm directing too. He said, doesn't matter. He said, you're not getting any younger. He said, figure it out. Just do it. And that's how it happened. I was like, okay. So I called my investors and I said, I think I can't get Stephen. What do you think about? I think I'm going to play. I like to play the part too, and I think I can do it. They're like, sure, go ahead. If you think you can do it, do it. And then it was like this ultimate challenge.
Well, you know, the financing question is a very interesting one, especially in today's the zeitgeist of all the crowdfunding, of Indiegogo and Kickstarter. Did you ever consider going the crowdfunding route?
I did consider it, but I thought since I actually had enough money to make the film, I didn't want to. I thought I'd be taking advantage of the system if I knew I had the money to make a movie, and I figured, you know, I'm going to stick with this. I think I can do it, and we managed to do it.
And you did it quite well. And down here in front.
Scottie, you're beautiful on camera. And that scene where you're at the beach, that was such a powerful scene. Can you elaborate on that scene? Because that was just incredible.
Outside on the porch.
Oh, on the porch when we're looking. On the porch when we're watching the. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you for your words. And I love the poetry. The chance to work with poetry in film is, you know, you get Shakespeare on stage, and I can't wait for more opportunities to dive into that sort of thing. But it's so rare that you really have such beautiful language to play with, and I totally saw how that connected to what the character was going through, and where the story was going, and how beautifully that reflected what was happening in the film. And I just really connected to it, and I just like to get all the way in there, and maybe I'm not necessarily method, but I just so connected to this person, and just thought her bravery and her view of the world she had an opportunity to shed some light on a really challenging thing. And so I just believed in it, I guess. And Randall, of course, was just right there with me, and totally, I just completely trusted him, and yeah.
In the back.
I'm curious, sorry, I'm coughing. What was the most rewarding moment for each of you in the whole process?
You've had time to think, Michael. Go ahead.
Well, I think, just from, I had a small role in this film. For me, it was just the execution of seeing, a very talented actor take this, task of acting and directing and producing and then editing. And I saw really, it is a collaborative art form, there's no doubt, and everyone puts in their little pieces. But, I saw Randall take 2 years of his life and dedicate this to what you saw in 92 minutes. And I think that, we have to acknowledge that, the projects we take on, we live. And Randall lived this, and it's, I think, brilliant because you put your stamp on it, and it meant enough to you to tell this story, and you followed from beginning to end. Not only just your money and the phone calls and that stuff, but, down to the verbiage on the last clip of the film and how the word is and really what he wanted to tell. And so I'm just proud to have seen you take that evolution.
And Scottie?
I feel like the whole process was rewarding for me. Excuse me. I mean, it was such an amazing opportunity for me as an actor. And of course, it's so special, Thursday when we had a screening on a big screen and everyone who was a part of it was there, and we got to see all the work Randall has done come to life on the screen. We all did. Yeah, I mean, it was just so special. But for me, I just loved being a part of it, just the whole process. Even in those moments when you're like, what's going on? It was just, yeah, I just loved it so much that the whole thing was, I can't think of one specific moment because they're all there.
I know you're not going to believe me, but tonight's screening with you guys was unbelievable because you guys got the humor in the moments that came from just us. I think it's because you're all actors. I'm imagining you're all actors because just small little moments, you guys were laughing. And I thought they were funny myself, but I hadn't really heard anybody laugh before. So for me, I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. You guys got that. So thank you. So tonight was really special. The first few days also were just getting through the scene where I'm gonna where I make the attempt, and then when the scene where Scottie dies or a character dies was very traumatic and emotional, and that was daunting. The challenge of getting those scenes right, or I didn't know if we'd pull that off or not. I didn't know, and just we were doing it, and it just was happening, and I felt that night, and it happened probably on day 4 or 5 of the movie. When we had that, I was like, whew, the rest is going to be smooth sailing. We got we got that stuff. It felt so real. I was devastated just doing the scenes with Scottie. So that was a great day too.
Another hand right here.
Yeah. What was your relationship, and did you rely heavily with your DP?
Question is, what was his relationship with, and did he rely heavily on his director of photography?
I had done another film with the director of photography, and I'd also met the line producer on this movie I shot in Africa. We were in Ghana, and I had been thinking about the movie at the time, and I told him we were having lunch, and I said, hey, I think I'm going to direct this film, and do you want to DP it? I was just looking for a DP. I was on a set. I was like, hey, what about this DP? I wasn't, and he was. I told him the story, and he was very moved. He had a personal experience as well with that, so we sort of bonded on that. And I think he was shocked when I called him up a year and a half later and said, okay, we're going to start shooting this movie. We need to meet up. And he was doing a cooking show somewhere. And we met maybe twice. 2 or 3 times I had worked with a storyboard artist, so I had a lot of the shots worked out in advance, and he looked at them and he's like, "Yeah, we're going to do this. We'll be fine. We'll get it done." And so I did rely on him, and he was very talented, extremely talented, and yeah.
Did I see a hand there popping up?
By the way, I ran into Randall at the bathroom, and it turns out I didn't even know he was in this film. I didn't even know anything. Turns out we did commercials. I did a commercial with him in New York when we were in our 20s, and he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I remember you." And anyway, so, we're at the Screen Actors Guild, and I got to tell you, from one filmmaker to another, first of all, Scottie, you are like, watching you on film, don't ever let anyone tell you you're not a great actress, because you are mesmerizing. I mean, you light up the screen. So I just wanted to let you know that. I just want to acknowledge you guys. And Randall, I should just let you know you did an amazing job, okay? I didn't even know you were in this film. So, and what I love about it is that there was no overacting. Your character especially. I mean, you led like she said, led the ship, and your acting was just so like relaxed and into you just fell right into it. And what a perfect combination. And you just like, I mean, it's beautiful. So I just wanted to acknowledge you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing.
I think you're getting more love here tonight than I've seen anywhere in a long time.
Thank you all.
Of course.
I have a lot of questions, but that last song in the ending credits, because I didn't get to see the ending credits, so I didn't know who it was. How did you get that song? It's beautiful. The lyrics are, because I'm a songwriter, so I totally was listening to those lyrics, and it really fit the film incredibly. That's one thing I want to know. And also distribution. You have distribution for this? And where else is it going to be shown? And because I want to see it again.
Okay, well, the movie's playing right now at the Laemmle Music Hall. It's actually playing through this Thursday. We started Thursday night, so we're playing for a week at the Laemmle. And
It's
then
on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, for anyone who doesn't know.
9036 Wilshire. 7:30 and 9:55.
Yes.
And you get a $3 discount if you say you're a friend of mine. And that's a fact. And it's also playing at the Village East in New York, 181 2nd Avenue, 7:30 and 9:45. And we're also on VOD everywhere. So we are on every cable network except for DirecTV. And we're on iTunes and Amazon. End credit. Kathleen Flynn, the composer, sensational. She's got a group of people that she works with. Paul McDonnell, Francesca Riva. My beautiful wife sang that song, Hilary Lambert. Yeah, she's always wanted to be a singer. She's got a beautiful voice, but she's been reticent to sing. And I'm like, you're fantastic. And I had a song that I liked that I was moderately expensive, and we had completely run out of money. So couldn't use that song. And I said to Kathleen, can we get a song as good as that? And she started sending me songs, and we had that song. It was just absolutely beautiful, but there was a guy singing it with a beautiful voice, but I just felt like I wanted to end on a softer note, so I had Hilary sing it, and she was awesome. And she's so happy now. I said, you did it. So that's that.
Anyone else? Right here. How is it working with your child actors?
Awesome. So this is another, there you go, this is about friends again. So I did a movie a bunch of years ago called Touched with Jenna Elfman. I don't know if you ever saw that, but I play, she touches me.
There's no other way to put it.
She touches me emotionally. Bruce Davison plays my father in that film. So that was my first time I worked with Bruce Davison. And Charlie Lee plays my son. Charlie Lee plays James, the ghost. He plays my brother, who's haunting me. So I thought about him. My casting director, Jen Levy, who did a great job, said, what about Charlie Lee? And I was like, great idea. Let's see Charlie. And I saw a bunch of other kids. There were a lot of really good kids. Gianni, who plays me as a youngster, was excellent as well. But I really wanted to cast my Charlie just because of the relationship. And he was phenomenal. I mean, his audition was incredible. So they gave great readings. Those were the only two roles that really were like read. People actually read for the parts, aside from her, but it wasn't a real reading. I gave her a little scene to read, and on the spot. I was like, will you read this? And she did. She was awesome. But yeah, the kids were great.
Anyone else? A new hand back there.
Now that she brought up the kid, I had a question. Did you have trouble? It looked like in a few of the scenes with the kid, with the haunting, that it was like right, I was expecting, and I know because of budget-wise, there were no special effects that could have been put in. But did you have trouble trying to get the feeling across without special effects of the haunting and disappearing? Was that difficult, blocking-wise, being a first-time director?
Well, that's a great question. You got me stumped. It was a very, we wanted to, as far as the little boy was concerned, I didn't want to overdo it. We talked about a lot of different possibilities on how to make the ghost work. My editor suggested that we actually use some kind of effect. I, at the end of the day, felt that keeping it real, just making him really pale, it's a figment of my imagination. So I thought it could be hokey. I didn't want to stay away from hokey, so I wanted to just find the right moments in the movie.
Yeah.
Just where it's just a suggestion of it's just in his brain.
Like hallucinations don't go away. You walked, got the gun or whatever, and you came back and he was still there.
Yeah.
Only he moved up a little, and I was expecting some kind of weird, like special effect. And when it didn't happen and he was still there, that solidified it for me. That was like the turning point for me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it was a good choice.
I'm glad it worked out. I could have really bombed, but it worked out. I had a lot of people saying, you need that, you need the effect. And I really resisted it and said, I really don't think it's the way to go. I think it would really been silly. Because it's not a real ghost, even though I also wanted to play it so that it could, theoretically, the ghost could have its own conscience. Because there's one scene in the closet where I look over and he's looking at me and he goes like this. It's the only time in the movie where the ghost really, he shakes his head. He says, don't do it. So maybe the ghost is real too, but in my mind, primarily, it's just in my brain.
And I've gotten a signal that we need to wrap, but quickly before we go, and since this is SAG and actors, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make the comment. Thank you for keeping the filming in LA. We really appreciate that.
Of course.
And also, did you do any research as far as, to be a rock star for the movie?
Yes, I did actually. I watched a lot of videos. I went to a lot of rock and roll shows. I went to watch Scott Weiland a few times. Watch the Stones. Whatever I could. Yeah, I did. I tried to get that sensation. Thank you.
But before we go, I just want to ask the three of you, because this is SAG and you are all actors, What is the greatest gift that acting has given to each one of you?
I'll start with this. I think actors are incredible because our job is to live in the moment. So I think that it forces you to be present. The only time in your life you may be present is when you're acting. I mean, you want to be present all the time, but when you're acting, you have to be. And because if you're not going to be good, right? So I feel like acting is like it's a way of life that if you could always be acting, like just being right here, having a real moment, because the camera or the audience can just be with you when it's a real moment, and you can't have an authentic moment unless you're present. So for me, that's the greatest gift, is to be an actor, because it forces you to be right here, right now.
Wow.
Whew, that was a really true, succinct answer, and I feel the same way. And I love the fact that it provides a safe place to just honestly, rawly, if such a word exists, connect with other human beings, because ultimately that's what we're looking for, I think. And when you have the chance to tell a story that you feel connected to in the first place and dive into this space where other people are existing in this other world that's still a truth. And again, the camera can tell when you're not being truthful. It's such a sacred space that you get to exist in. And whether you're on stage, you know, looking at someone else, you know, that other person or other people can really be there with you. And I think it just, you can transcend all the other noise and just connect with what is your true emotional state of being. And I think that's, you know, your heart speaking, essentially. Let go of all the other things and just be present.
What about for you, Michael? The man who left and came back?
Interesting question, really heavy actually, but I'm going to attempt to actually answer that. I had a lot of years to think about the effect of a role, and you know, I had a chance to play such a heavy character, and I think the fascinating part is that, you know, we can transcend, like you said, it's a great word, and connect with something that we really have no connection to, we think. And when you find yourself sort of morphing into that role or that character, and you actually can't separate yourself out from it because you are that connected, we realize how powerful our own minds are. And I think that what I learned and the blessing that I got from it is just how you can connect to something that you really aren't, or you didn't think you were connected to, in a good way or a bad way. When you leave that role, you realize that half the things that you want to do in life, you just have to imagine yourself transcending and connecting to, and you are that thing. So the blessing that I got from getting in touch with a character that was so powerful and drained me almost to my, you know, demise, was that when I got done, I had tested my own sort of resilience to just becoming something else and then pulling it back. And then when you focus on the right things in life, I think that's the beauty and the power that I got from acting, and I'm blessed to have had that opportunity.
Wow. Well, thank all of you for being here. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Thank you.
And 37, A Final Promise, in theaters now and on VOD.